Hello, Noble Rick here. I'm inking in Luna of the Rock Tribe, an original creation by my niece, and the last of 4 drawings, Luna of the Rock Tribe. The Dryad is nearly done, a little Terraria Dryad. I've got all her parts together. All I gotta do is glue them together and paint them. So she's nearly done. But for now, let's ink in Luna of the Rock Tribe. My niece came up with a post-apocalyptic story. She had me draw characters for her. This is the last of the 4. They're all sisters. The rare females in a post-apocalyptic world. Now when you're drawing, you probably want to do a sketch and be rather thorough with the sketch so you can get all your kinks out of the drawing. And here, even though I've did a pretty thorough sketch, I'm improving, as I think you naturally will. Improving on the sketch, I increased the in the sketch the arm band, which is metal probably, was very thin, but I made it thicker here. I thought it looked better to be thicker. The bracelet is parallel, 2 parallel lines, so you'll see me wrestle with that thing. Also, another fix I did with the bracelet is it looked like it was floating. I don't think there's any magic particularly in this particular bracelet, so I made it hang from her wrist rather than float around her wrist. That's an improvement on the sketch, an improvement to the sketch. Also, it's a little tricky for me to make parallel lines, which is basically what a bracelet is. If it's the same thickness all the way around, it's going to be made of 2 parallel lines going around each other. Parallel lines meaning one line is going to be the same distance basically from the other line, the 2 lines that make up the bracelet. And I had to cut the sketch view off so I could not let it distract me as I redrew the bracelet. Notice here too that the cloth presses into the skin. A little feature there of realism, little realistic detail there. Now there's 2 types of digital art in my experience. There is vector and there is bitmap, and you're probably more familiar with bitmap yourself, or have been more exposed to bitmap than you have been to vector artwork. Vector artwork is probably more used for logos. It's a simpler image view, though you can be complex with it. It is made up of, in vector, the line is a mathematical thing inside the computer. And watch what happens here with that mathematical line. You see it redraw itself over to the right side when I erase that bit. You might want to rewind it and look at it. But when I erased that line where it crossed over, you could see the pixels move around because it was redrawing the line. And that's a neat feature of Clip Studio, is that it has merged together those 2 digital art types. There's vector and there's bitmap. Bitmap is like photographs. Each pixel is varying degrees of types of color, which makes up a photo. Each pixel has its own color, and you put those pixels together to build a photo. But a vector is a line, and it's a mathematical line. But what Clip Studio Paint does is it creates that line as a raster, recalculates it as a raster, as a bitmap. Raster and bitmap's pretty much the same thing, made up of pixels. And that's the reason why the line edge, when you zoom in on it, is sort of ziggy, because it's made up of little squares. It's a neat feature of Clip Studio Paint that they combine the 2 types of computer art, raster and vector. The thin and thickness of lines, I think a good rule of thumb is, and there's probably 2 ways of artistic ways of using thickness and thinness in your art line, your inking line. And one is to make it thick where the shadow is, or just think of the light source. Where the light source is hitting the body, the line will be thinner. Where the light source is creating a shadow on the body, the ink line, will be thicker. Now there's a pattern on the leg, which I'll be drawing soon here. And for efficiency, you would want to stroke the lines in the same direction. You've got several lines going one direction, several other lines going the opposite direction. Don't go back and forth, but rather stay with one line direction until you get all those made, and then go to the other direction. It's more efficient that way. Here too, the leg, I had made the leg a little thick here previously, so I've redrawn the leg here, and I'm doing something that I think is if you got a bump, for lack of a better term, on a surface like the muscle in the leg there, you can also make the line thick going to thin. Make that leg, or that side of the leg, into two lines, made up of two lines, going thin to thick, and it's thin where the bump is and thick away from the bump. I don't know if I described that very well, but it's where the muscle is just above the knee and the front leg. I made the line thick going to thin, and another line thick going to thin. They're thin where they meet each other, those two lines, and it gives the effect of a bump there where the muscle is. Now the leg pattern, I tried to go in two different directions there, but I found it's more efficient to go one direction and then go the other direction. Even with the other leg, there's lines going the same direction. And Clip Studio Paint has a neat feature that allows me to just draw right over each other, because I'm going to erase them without destroying them. So draw lines going one direction and then draw the other lines going the other direction, rather than going back and forth. It's more efficient that way, I think. And I just erased where they cross over each other. And you'll notice too that these two patterns mirror each other. I think that looks good that way. They have them mirror each other. Let's shadow her knee there. These shadows are soft and subtle, so you probably want to make the lines as thin as possible. Still be quite visible. I think a bit too much shadow here at her waist. And the line was heavy there. Again, the line should be thin here, because this is a soft shadow in the creases. See there where the cloth presses into the flesh there. A little realistic detail there. I thought the cross hatching here was a little too heavy, so I took where it crosses over off. Parallel lines. They should be the same distance apart, pretty much. So I make them parallel. Parallel lines are two lines going the same direction, and they should never cross. They're truly parallel as they go to infinity. Little shadow under her arm there. The outline of the body, you might want it thicker than the. That's a style that I think Joe Maduro had used in the past to make his images or his figures pop out. He would make the outer line of the object thick. That's one reason why I did the outer line first. And the details, a thinner line. Maybe not thin, but thinner. Notice too that on the outer part of the arm I used click, shift, click. You make straight lines that way. That's been a feature of drawing programs for a long time. In Clip Studio Paint, it carries on that neat feature. Now I'm using the fill tool, which is hitting the G key on your keyboard twice, and you have to cut your or turn off the view of your sketch layer because it will influence the fill tool. And I'm putting it on a separate layer, the fill that is, so that I won't be destroying the inking of the hair. I filled the hair in with the fill tool on a separate layer. My boss back in the day, I would create some, she would come up with a concept and I have to make it a reality. Oh, there's a mistake there that kind of worked. I made a lip sticker, and that first mistake was not a good line, but it made it look like the lips were thicker, and that made, to me, it looked good. And here I'm putting highlights in the hair, and that's done on the ink layer as well, but it was the opposite shade of color. But it's still on the same layer. The highlights in the hair is on the same layer as the ink, the outlines of the character. As I say, my boss in the past, she would come up with a concept, and she must have thought that I would was shooting down her ideas, but I was not shooting down her ideas as much as I was. See, when you're an engineer, which I kind of was, not an official engineer, but I was engineering stuff, and as an engineer, you try to think of all the problems you'll run into to make it a reality. I was trying to think how I'd make it a reality. I wasn't shooting it down. Alright, I'm cutting out the body shape from the color background that I had made, and I got to get under her arms as well, so I'm going to use the wand tool to select that area as well. There we go. Luna of the Rock Tribe. And that's the last drawing. I should be getting to the Dryad next. Getting her finished and getting that video made. I got a lot of footage of that one, so it's going to be a big video. Or else I'm squishing it all down into 10 minutes. Who knows? But anyway, I'm going to make a video of that, and we'll go from there. Here's Luna of the Rock Tribe. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.